are you in New York right now?
Yeah, I'm in Long Island.
Oh yeah, we're in Long Island.
Hicksville, Nassau County?
Yeah, yeah. It's cool. And never been up to Long Island. My daughter moved over to Elizabeth, New Jersey, and she's just
Okay.
loving New York.
Where are you guys from?
I'm in Atlanta.
Okay. Big
Yeah.
hip hop scene in Atlanta.
Oh, it's huge. I've seen it
Yeah,
explode over the years here. I've been here for over 3 decades, and wow, what a change. Just
crazy.
amazing. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of work here. Just huge. Everywhere you look. I mean, there's studios all over the place. South side, over in Midtown. Just it's constant here.
Yeah, it's awesome, man.
Yeah. Yeah. So how's it going now? You're in New York. You got your new single out. How's that doing?
It's doing pretty well. I've done some podcasts, a lot of interviews. Got a lot of good feedback with it. It's my debut single, so I was very excited to release that. A lot of production went into that record. As far as the instrumental and the vocalist that we had, Alyssa Puletz. We did a lot of
Yeah.
pre-production, and it felt good to finally get something out there. And now I'm actually working on my next single, which is going to release next week.
Oh, cool. So you're really knocking it out. Yeah. And it's good to get singles out there because, full albums, that's a lot of time and effort. And once you get those singles out there and they can get some play, especially like on YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely looking to lay down the groundwork and just, build an online presence with, I would say, about three, maybe four singles, and then work my way into a project in 23.
Nice, keeping busy. So
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So how did it all start for you? You started writing lyrics when you were in your teenage years growing up over there?
Even younger, I would say I started writing poetry, when I was 8, 9 years old.
Wow.
A lot of we had a lot of lessons in English class that I kind of just took to writing in general. And, when I hit 12, 13, I kind of transitioned into hip hop, which, just became my thing. I started writing lyrics for a lot of different reasons, but, things that I was going through as a kid, it was just a way for me to channel my energy and my emotions onto paper. And it just became kind of a vice for me. And, throughout the years, I did it as a hobby. And even going into my 20s, I never really took it as serious as I'm taking it now. Around 25 years old, I quit my job. I went back to school for construction management and audio engineering. So
Oh,
for
cool.
the audio engineering class at Nassau, um, we had to do a internship. So I started looking around Long Island. I reached out to a few people, and I landed an internship with the Giants music group. Big shout out to everybody over there: Zay, Dane, Lou, Eric, and these guys have just been doing it for so long that it was just such an experience to be in that studio with them, watching the way that they worked, watching how they produced and engineered, and how they just had such a huge catalog. I definitely learned a lot, and at that point, I just decided like I really wanted to give it my all. So throughout that period, I met a lot of good people in the process, a lot of producers, and I just started building a project to get me where I am today. Ready to release.
Nice. Yeah, War is that single. It's really great. So how did that production mix come along? Who worked on that?
So big shout out to DG and KP. They were the producers on the record. KP was somebody that I met uh, during my time with the Giants music group. He was a producer over there, and he worked hand in hand with them. And we met a couple times. We just had a few conversations, and I wound up seeing him at the gym like 6 months later. I hadn't seen him for a long time, but I ran into him at the gym, and at that point, I was online on SoundClick.com looking for instrumentals. Trying to build relationships with people. Uh, but I knew that, listening to his work, like he was a producer that I really wanted to work with. So I was asking him like, hey, can I get an instrumental? Can I get some beats? And he was like, like he kind of took away from the music industry. He did a lot of work, and he decided that he didn't want to, pursue music at that time. So me asking him, he kind of just kept putting it off, putting it off. I kept running into. Finally, he sent me some beats, and War was one of the instrumentals in that package. So, I heard it and I was like, this is a really good record, and this is something that I want to write to. So I wound up writing the verses and the bridge at the very end, and I sent it over to him. He's like, I love it. He's like, I actually have a chorus that I wrote for this record already.
Nice.
He's like, and I'm gonna send it over to you. I think if we found a female vocalist with your bridge in this chorus, it would sound really good. So, I listened to it. I fell in love with it. We started looking for a female vocalist, and we came across Alyssa, and we just fell in love with her voice. She just has that
Powerful.
vintage, very crisp, just such a beautiful voice. And we did some pre-production behind the record, and then we went to the studio and laid it down, and that was pretty much the process right there of how that record came about.
Did you know Alyssa before this, or were you familiar with her, or it's just like, basically found her just through all your research?
Yeah, we just found her. We started
Amazing.
networking. KP tapped in with one of his friends who was like, you know what, I have this girl. Her name is Alyssa, and that was actually how we met her. And now we're very good friends.
Nice, nice. How'd you come up with these lyrics? This is pretty cool stuff I was able to pick out of there. It's just really interesting. Like, well, it's like I have to be dead for them to pray for me. That's pretty powerful.
Yeah. When it comes to music, I like writing things that people can just really relate to, things that I've experienced in my life. Like I can write music that's a little dumbed down or, about money and cars, and those things are easy. But for me to really dig in and write lyrics like this is something that, I find that I'm just drawn to, as far as my artistry and just music in general. I like listening to hip hop. You could call it conscious hip hop or things like that, but I like listening to hip hop that has a message. And, a lot of these lyrics are just things that I've actually dealt with growing up, falling out with friends and people wishing the worst, and, just navigating my way through my 20s to where I am today. A lot of these lyrics are just things that are very personal to me. And when I heard this song, like I knew right away that this was, a powerful record and a powerful song. That was a very powerful hook. And, I just really took my time. It took me a little bit more time to write this than some of my other records because it just had to be perfect. And I really, took my time to be particular with what I was saying in there.
So is it all written out? This isn't like totally ad libbed. You actually like really write the do you rehearse that a lot? Because it's just
Oh yeah,
obviously very fluent.
yeah, yeah. As far as rehearsal, I mean, hundreds of times I
Yeah.
go over this, hundreds of times,
It's
especially
fast. It's like,
yeah, in the process of writing it, I'm just constantly, once I have a verse done, it's like each part I've gone over so many times that when it's finally completed, I'm already at a place where I have it in my memory. And even then I still, excuse me, do a lot of rehearsals and a lot of pre-production to the point where when we got in the studio, we just laid this thing down, within a few hours we had it done.
oh, beautiful. Beautiful. That's so cool. Yeah. And then how long did it take? Was it a whole week, or how long did it take to do the single?
As far as mixing, mastering, and engineering it.
Yeah, the whole process from production through post.
So I would say it was about three, maybe four sessions, and each session are about 5 hours each. So, we go in there, we lay down the vocals. That took a decent amount of time for the first session. And then we go back in there and big shout out to Mike Perkillo. He's the engineer that I've been working with on all my music. He's produced some beats for me as well. Very talented individual. Such a pleasure working with him, seeing how fast and how diligent he is. Uh, we went in there and like I said, we probably busted it all out within like 4 or 5 sessions.
Cool.
Uh,
That's really nice. Yeah. So your musical roots, it started when you were a kid. Where did you grow up in New York over there?
so I grew up in Long Island, Nassau County. I grew up here in Hicksville. And I grew up on a lot of oldies. That was what my parents listened to growing up. Marvin Gaye, Temptations, the Four Tops, things like that. That was what was always played in my house growing up. And the melodies with these artists and these bands were just, a lot of times you don't hear melodies the way you did back then. Stevie Wonder, it was music.
Oh yeah,
And
gosh.
yeah, so I took to that. I always had these melodies in the back of my head, and when I started writing to hip hop, it just kind of came fluently for me. One of my strong suits are writing bridges and hooks with melodies. For every song that I write to, sometimes my engineer is like, dude, all of the songs, like, you're kind of singing melodies, like maybe rap one here and there. And I try to, but it just comes so natural. But as far as being a kid, that's what I grew up listening to. And then as I transitioned into hip hop, I listened to a lot of the '90s hip hop artists, Tupac, Nas, Big Pun, 50 Cent, Banks, Lil
Yeah.
Wayne, and a lot of the artists that I listened to growing up were very lyrical. Now it's kind of taking a transition, and taking a little bit of a turn. But when I grew up listening to hip hop, a lot of these artists were really spitting bars. And for me as an artist, that's definitely something that shaped me as a hip hop artist.
Yeah, I've seen that really evolve. I remember seeing Beastie Boys back in '85, and that was like never heard anything like that. So it's just like it's amazing how it's really come up through there. So yeah, and being on Long Island, so you must have been around a lot of that evolving in those days.
What as far as what?
As far as like hip hop is like growing and growing around you and growing up on Long Island.
Yeah, a lot of my friends listen to hip hop. I would say around seventh grade was where I kind of transitioned into hip hop, and all of my friends were listening to it. That was at a time, I think that was probably like around 2002 when Eminem dropped the Eminem show.
Right.
So that was a big influence. But, growing up as a kid in my teenage years, all of my friends, it was just hip hop was the main genre that we were listening to for sure.
Yeah. So how'd you get into boxing?
So for boxing, at that same time, around 15 years old, I started getting into a lot of trouble as a kid growing up. We were just hanging out in the street, and just, trouble just somehow followed us. And, one of my friends was like, yo, you should come down to Westbury PAL. So I started going down there, and, I met up with Kevin Collins, who runs Westbury PL, and Joe Gadigian. Big shout out to those guys over there. Major influence in my life, especially Joe, who's my coach. He's been somebody who has seen me go through some really tough times. And anytime that I was ready to make a change in my life and, start doing better, he was there to encourage me, to push me, and to just give me the guidance that I really needed as a kid that was making a lot of bad decisions. And that's what Westbury was put there for. Westbury PL was donated by a family, the land, and the gym was developed for at-risk youth. Kids that were getting in trouble and doing the wrong thing. And a lot of people's story coming out of Westbury, just boxing gyms in general, you'll find that similar story there. Of just kids that didn't really have anywhere else to turn to except for the boxing gym. So, I started boxing when I was 15, but I didn't start competing until I was 22. It was kind of something that I was torn between, hanging out with my friends and going out drinking and partying. And, then I would go back to boxing for a year, and I would do really well in all areas of my life, not just in boxing, because when I was boxing, I wasn't smoking, I wasn't drinking, I wasn't hanging out, I was getting good sleep, I was in great shape, I was eating healthy. So I would take these habits into school with me, and I would start doing really well in school. Yeah, I'd be able to pay attention. I'd be wide awake. I wouldn't be sleeping through class. So it really molded me as a person and shaped me as a kid, you know, growing into the young adult that I was and into the man that I am today. Boxing has definitely been something that has really helped me as a person and just growing as an individual. So coming into my later teen years, I did get into a decent amount of trouble, and around 22, I was just fed up with it. I was just so tired of back and forth and just dealing with all different types of things. Financially, it was killing me, and it was just I've seen a lot of my friends, you know, uh, just go to jail, prison. Some of my friends have passed away. Rest in peace,
Yeah.
to a few of them. And you just come to like a standstill where you're just like, man, I'm so sick of this. Like, I don't want to do this no more. You just hit that wall where you make up your mind, like, I'm done.
Mm.
And 22 was that place for me where I was just so fed up, and I decided to go back to boxing full time. And that year I quit smoking cigarettes. I started smoking cigarettes at a really, really young age. I would say I was about 13 years old. By the time I was 15, I was smoking half a pack of cigarettes a day. So
Sheesh.
22 hit. Yeah, and I just went cold turkey. I said, I'm done. Until
It's
this
so
day,
self-defeating too, though. Here you're working. I never understand. And I've seen some runners. We were talking about running. It's like that you're defeating yourself. It's like,
yeah,
yeah, you got to come to that point.
yeah, for sure. And it was something I always wanted to quit. Like, when I was boxing, like my junior year in high school, I dedicated myself to boxing for that whole year, and that's when I was thriving, and I quit smoking. And then I went backwards and started smoking and hanging out with my friends again. So it was just kind of torn between these two different lifestyles. And finally at 22, when I made up my mind, I quit cold turkey, smoking cigarettes, stopped drinking. And that year I fought 5 times, fought in the Golden Gloves. For one of my fights, I got an article written up about me in the Daily News. So it was just a lot of good things happened that year.
Mm.
And I fought in the Golden Gloves 2 more times after that. Every time I fought in the Golden Gloves, win or lose, I made the newspaper. They did an article on me, and it was just it was a great experience. And through my mid 20s, I didn't go back to smoking and doing stuff like that again, but I just came to a little bit of a standstill where I stopped boxing, stopped competing, stopped taking care of myself physically, and just kind of went backwards in a sense, not to where I used to really be, but just in a place where I wasn't doing what I wanted to be doing in life.
Mm.
And, you know, I came to that place again about 27 years old where I was just tired of it. And, since then I've lost about 40 pounds and I've been training. I started really diving into music, dedicating my time and myself to writing and coming up with this catalog and these songs that I've been working on, and just leading me to where I am today, with a project almost finished, some singles that are coming out. I should be fighting within the next month or so. Definitely going to be doing the Golden Gloves again, which is now called the Ring Masters in 23. And it's just where I'm at today. Very grateful, very thankful, and it's been a journey. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, the boxing sounds like it's given you so much of a grounding and stability and has helped you with persistence. And then you're recognizing your talent too. It's like, wait a minute, I got more here. So that must really help. So it's the New York Daily News that was sponsoring those fights.
Yeah.
Mm.
For the 3 times that I fought in the Golden Gloves, it was the New York Daily News. Excuse me. And then after the last time that I fought in the gloves, which was 2017, there was a bit of a shift there, and the Daily News took out and they had to change the name to Ringmasters. I still call it the Golden Gloves. It's a tournament that's been around in New York for 50 years. Very unfortunate that they changed the name. I think a lot of it was politics and some legal stuff. I heard some rumors about them bringing back the name Golden Gloves, which would, really make a lot of people's days, because like I said, the Golden Gloves has just been around for so long. You know, guys that are my grandfather's age were fighting at the Golden Gloves. So, but yeah,
Yeah, it's amazing. You have so much in common. You probably don't listen to much of his music. Billy Joel, he always seems to pop up on my podcast. I always keep circling back to somebody like that. Grew up where you did and was into boxing. I was like, how does
he broke.
boxing and piano playing? You got to be messing up your hands. How do you play piano and box? I don't know how you do both.
Oh, get out of here! He boxed too.
Oh yeah, he was totally into boxing,
Really?
completely. Yeah, and if you look at the Stranger album, I think one of the photos that comes with that is has the boxing gloves up in back of him. Yeah. If you look at him up, there's like some history there where he's won some fights. I think he was pretty good when he was young.
Really? I wouldn't be surprised if he fought out of Westbury, PAL, because he grew up in Hicksville.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, you have all that in common. It always, a lot of artists who I speak with, something always circles back to somebody like that. It's just like there's so many degrees of separation.
yeah. It's funny. I heard a couple stories how he used to hang out in my backyard before my parents owned the house. You know, because the people in my neighborhood have been there for so long. So I've heard a couple of stories about him. So it's a funny coincidence.
Yeah, that whole area just gave him a lot of material, a lot of stuff he wrote about over the years. So I could see why. I mean, was probably totally exciting, especially back in the 60s. I bet that was. Wow.
And
So
he's
you
still going. He's still going strong too. You know, he's packing out Madison Square Garden. I see he's working with Olivia Rodrigo.
Yeah,
So
he had her up on stage the other month. Yeah, it's amazing. This guy's in his early 70s. He's still going. He went through a lot. So that's somebody who really paid his dues in so many different ways. I think maybe boxing helped there too and helped get the grounding and the discipline going and know how to fight in more ways than one.
yeah, that's a wild fact there. I really didn't know that Billy Joel was into into boxing like that. I'm gonna have to look into it a little bit more.
Yeah.
Again, I wouldn't be surprised if growing up in Hicksville, Westbury, PAL has been around since I think the '70s. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's where he was fighting out of.
I've done some stories on people in his band. I actually, when he was here in Atlanta about 6 years ago, I saw him backstage. I did a story on his guitarist who was in a Billy Joel tribute band right there on Long Island. And then Billy got him into the actual band. It's through all these connections. And met up with a sax player, and it's just what a great outfit. There were a lot of people who were very dedicated to Billy, and he's had them for years on the crew. It's like a family when you especially when you go backstage and you see that.
Yeah,
Really,
that's
really good
wild.
New Yorker, definitely loves New York too, and he does a lot of good stuff up there.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, same here. A lot of people are like ready to move out of New York, but I'll tell you, I'll be living here till the day I die. I can't.
Yeah, it's special. My daughter was like, I just, she was in Boston for a while and just recently moved to the area. She just loves New York. Yeah, it's exciting. It really is. So hopefully, it always goes through, hard times. And, like the whole New York state of mind thing, that was when New York was going through some bad stuff in the 70s, financially. And President Ford said, hey, to hell with you. You guys figure it out. And, they've come back. It's always come back.
We always do.
Yeah.
Hopefully we bounce back from where we are now as an economy. I mean, not just New
Yeah.
York, but
It's tough everywhere. It really
yeah.
is. It's really been tough with COVID and everything. So, but you did some hard knock stuff too. I mean, just through all your growing up, and you had a job in Astoria. So, what did you do over there?
Yeah, I did a lot of gas work for Con Edison and National Grid, mostly Con Ed in Queens. But as a kid, I did a lot of work in the restaurant industry, and when I turned 18, I came into an opportunity to get into local 731. And that was definitely a big part of, that period of time where I was going through a little bit of a tough time that really helped me get out of all the trouble that I was going through. But I did an apprenticeship for local 731. It was a 2-year apprenticeship. And then I worked into becoming a journeyman, and I landed a job with a gas company in Queens. And I did a lot of gas work all over Astoria. I did the gas main in front of Rikers Island from Ditmars all the way to Crescent, 25th Street, all the way up to Hoyt. Did a lot of work in College Point, did all areas of Queens really. But, for a while I was in Astoria, and my union is based out of Astoria as well.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, keeping it real. That's real. seriously tough, hard work there.
Yeah,
Definitely. Yeah.
it's when I was fighting in the Golden Gloves, I was digging holes all day in like 98-degree weather, like drenched in sweat. I mean, even in the wintertime training, it'd be 7, 8 degrees out, and we'd just be out there 10, 12 hours a day digging. A lot of people like, oh, I want to do that job, I want that job, but a lot of people get on the job and they just can't handle it. It's heavy work. But at that age, being 22, I just had the energy where I was able to work all day digging these holes, and then I would go spar 3 5 rounds or go run 3 miles afterwards. So I was
Talk about
definitely
energy.
yeah.
Wow, yeah, 22. You've lived a lot. So by the time you hit 22, you probably did more than like somebody twice that age, like 44. It's like it sounds like a lot you've been through and gone through. It builds character. You've learned a lot at a young age.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that the only good thing about me getting into so much trouble at a young age is that I was so fed up and tired of it. By the time I hit 22, I was completely, I mean, I haven't been in trouble in years, but a lot of people, they get sheltered from some of the things that I experienced as a kid growing up. And then when they get into their 20s, that's where they really let loose and start making all these bad decisions, whether it be alcohol or drugs or just hanging with the wrong crowd. So, one thing that I am thankful for is that I learned a lot of harsh lessons at a young age, and coming into, my adult years, I just, it kind of gave me a compass of where that, where I was and where I'm trying to go. So,
Nice. Now, are you doing a lot of live performance? Do you get into that, or is just simply you're just doing studio work?
so I've done a lot of studio work. I'm at a place now where, I'm starting to book some shows. I got something I'm working on for November 5th. That's here in Long Island. And there's a couple more shows coming up. I've done some shows here and there, but I haven't really dove into it. I've just been really putting some time into developing my craft and, putting together these projects and, balancing life in general. it- Music is considered a hobby, and it's like, now I'm trying to shift it into a business model. But at the same time, you got to pay your bills in the beginning stage. You're not really able to. And I've been on my own since I was 18. I have my own house right now with some roommates that we're renting. So it's just, I'm really just trying to balance, work, boxing, and music. So it's been a little bit tough as far as booking shows and whatnot. But now I'm at a place where I'm ready to hit the gas and, really start performing.
Cool, cool. Do you follow a lot of boxing? Do you watch a lot of it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet you do. And probably do you I mean, there are certain techniques that you're picking up on when you're watching these fights?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, I study boxing. I like watching Floyd Mayweather, Roy Jones Jr., some of the old fighters as well, Marvin Hagler. Paulie Malignaggi is a boxer. I love watching him because he had one of the best jabs in boxing. You'd see if you ever watch. Are you familiar with boxing, or
Little
do you
bit,
follow
little bit.
him a little
I
bit?
remember Ali back in the day quite a bit. I remember
Ali,
the whole
yeah,
Rumble in the Jungle thing.
yeah, legend.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love studying boxing and everything about the sport. Sometimes, excuse me, sometimes people don't really understand what boxing is and what it does for people who fully commit to the sport.
Yeah.
I've had people, like even family members, like, I don't understand boxing, it's just two guys hitting each other in the head, like it just makes no sense to me. And
Yeah.
it's like,
There's
to
strategy. It's strategy. I mean, you gotta, it's gotta be a technique and a strategy. And
skill set.
yeah, totally is. Yeah, it's not just throwing punches into the air. You gotta know what you're doing. Yeah, definitely. I think Rocky really kind of like opened our eyes up to that kind of thing.
Oh, you talking about
Sly Stallone's Rocky
yeah,
series.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 he did that. That was a great, his that story, of him
Yeah.
being homeless and having that screenplay was just very inspirational.
Amazing.
I think he definitely brought that to the mainstream and shined a big light on boxing at that point. Definitely one of my favorite movies growing up. One of my
Yeah.
father's favorite movies. He'll to this day he'll still put that on.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And how about Raging Bull? Was that kind of
Yeah,
big in your house? Yeah.
yeah, that was a great movie.
Saw that when that came out. Wow, what a work of art.
Joe
Totally.
Pesci and Robert De Niro. That was a great
Woo.
movie. Yep.
Wow. Wow. So was there a film? Are you in a documentary? I saw something called Glory by John Volpine.
So that's actually a short film that I shot with John and KP, that my producer that I mentioned earlier. We shot that about a year and a half ago. Actually, it's going on 2 years. So that's a short film that I'm actually leading up to with these singles. That's going to be the third single that I'm releasing in November. So that's a song, and then also it's a short film with an extended instrumental that Mike Perkillo, did a guitar solo. We have a few things in there, so definitely looking forward to releasing that. But that's a pretty much my story right there, is a kid growing up getting into trouble and finding direction in the boxing gym. A lot of acting in that. So definitely excited to share that with everybody as well.
Sweet, sweet. I came across something called a Peanuts Challenge. Is that on your
Yeah,
YouTube? Yeah.
yeah, I see Logic posted something on TikTok about Peanuts Challenge. It was an instrumental that he made. So one of my friends forwarded it to me. He's like, "Yo, write a freestyle and record this." I was like, "All right, cool, man." So I wrote a quick 16 and released it on TikTok. Did pretty well. You got something like 20,000 views, so that was pretty
Yeah.
cool.
You're getting out there, definitely. So, and rooting for your Yankees.
Hell yeah.
I,
I like the Mets too, though. For me, I'm a New York guy. I don't understand how people can go against New York in general. I mean, I go for all the teams. I mean, definitely a Yankee fan growing up in my house, but if the Mets are playing, I'm rooting for them for sure.
yeah, I mean it's still New York. I mean, come on. So there are some real divided loyalties there. Your Queens people versus the Bronx. I guess that's yeah, those Subway series.
Yeah, so I remember Subway series as a kid. I remember like it was yesterday. Joe Torre, the
That's
newspaper, all the illustrations they did in the New York Times.
Yankees. Yeah, I know. I grew up in Cleveland, so I don't know if they'll ever get a championship. Who knows? Yeah, one day I'd like to see them win a World Series. I'd like to see at least the Browns appear in the Super Bowl. So that's my roots. I've lived in Atlanta longer than I did Cleveland, but it would be nice. But Yankees, like Billy Joel always said, grab the headlines every time in that one song. So
Every The Mets did good a couple years back. I think it was 2017. They did pretty good. They almost made it.
I remember that 1986 World Series, and yeah, that one guy, he just the ball rolled right between the legs and lost the game for the Red Sox. Just really sad for them, but good for the Mets.
Yeah.
Nice, nice. So what's for the future? You're 31 now, so where do you
So,
see yourself? And it's so hard to say because music is so tough to predict where you're going to be in a year, 2 years, 5 years, or more.
yeah, my goal right now is to, really grind out when it comes to music and boxing. My goal in the next few years is to turn realistically next year. I would like to turn pro as a boxer, and with music, I'm looking to drop that project in 23, and I want to really tie together the two. And use boxing to leverage myself with music, and the same with music and boxing. There's kind of a niche there right now where you see a lot of people are being drawn to what's going on with boxing. You see Jake Paul's making, a lot of waves in the industry and whatnot. And, I've been doing it for so long, I'm just at a place where, coming into my 30s, it's like I've wasted, a little bit of time in my 20s. And now I'm just at a place where, I'm going to give this, 110% and, just see where it goes. But, in the next couple of years, my goal is to keep releasing music. It's to perform, it's to box, and just see where I wind up and just keep working, man. That's it. Right now, it's all about work.
Good for you. Definitely. Well, best wishes and everything. Where could we find you online? You got your own website and you're on all the socials.
Yeah, so my website is Paul Rello Music, PaulRello music.com. All my socials are there, but if you punch in Paul Rello on any, social media platform, you'll find me. On every my handle is the same across the board. Paul Rello.
Nice and easy to find. War is on YouTube. Good video. You got a good production on there. Uh, who was on that team to make that video look so good?
You talking about the cover art?
Yeah.
Oh, that was Bang cover art. I'm pretty sure they're out of Germany, or I'm not exactly which country they're in, but you know, I came across them online. I was just searching for some cover art. I put in the hashtag cover art and I came across their page, and they just do some really good work. You know, big shout out to Bang cover art.
Cool.
Uh,
Well, yeah, good deal. Well, best wishes, and hopefully we'll hear a lot from you in the future.
Absolutely, stay tuned. I got a single dropping next week and a music video follow that two weeks from that. I think November 4th we're gonna be dropping the music video. So, you know,
Good deal. Best wishes. Have a good one. Thanks for stopping by.
thanks for having me. Have a nice day, brother.
Take care. Take care. Bye bye.